Turn the TV on, but change the channel. The Frontier League has a new home this year. Find out where on this week's episode of the Indy Ball Report podcast. $316. That's the episode number for the Indy Ball Report. How are you, Ryan? How are you doing? Is things well?
Things are things.
Things are things.
Yeah,
What
that's
a way
sort
to
of the way
describe
we're going about it. But baseball's back, so it's good.
You know, things have been worse, but at least I got a way to entertain myself until the slow release of death finally catches up to me. So, you know, I guess you could say things are looking up.
Essentially, yes. There we go.
That's
don't make me go over my slog to rigor mortis quote.
which, again, we have yet to answer. Where does the pick go on the field?
I mean, I think it would be funny, like kind of just in front of third base. It makes it interesting. You know,
I think we're like about 5 to 8 feet behind second base. So you're right in that awkward pop-up territory, right? Where if you're
right
busy
between like the
tracking
pitcher and home, but then bunting is going to become a weird thing.
it could revive bunting. Because I assume if it goes into the pit, it becomes a ground rule double, right?
Yeah, essentially.
You know what's funny? We're really continuing on the theme from last week's show. This week, only we have actual stuff to talk about this week. There was a plan in place.
I mean, the plan always feels like news to me. I know we go over it, but here we are.
I really should start emailing you the plan, shouldn't I?
I mean, you do. It's just a mixed bag on whether or not that means anything to me.
All right, then. So, Home Team Network. Home Team Network.
Man.
That is where we start off the week. Would you expect anything less from us? The Frontier League will now stream games on Home Team Network. It's a streaming service. As you could probably guess from, they will stream games on Home Team Network. We mentioned this a few weeks back. They were switching off of Flow. Now it becomes official. Expect pricing to come soon. I imagine sometime next week. They're going to have daily, monthly, and full season plans for you. And then the USPBL and Prospect League, for what it's worth, are also on Home Team. So there are, you know, more baseball of note on there. Although for what we do, it doesn't really matter. But the Prospect League and the USPBL is, unfortunately, taking more or less a back seat here, being that there's 4 other leagues and 52 other teams that we have to look at before the United Shore Professional Baseball League gets its due. But yes, it's a multi-year agreement. It's going to start in 2025, and all these stadiums are going to have a 5-camera setup, which I do like to see. I would assume that's going to mean they have one on the third base, one on the first base, one behind home plate, one in center field, and then perhaps they're going to have a little bit more play on that 5th camera where that's going to go. It would be cool if someone could, you know, get us a ground level view, maybe like leave it in the dugout and be able to get those cool close-up shots or something like that. Although, admittedly, that's a bit of a pipe dream, I believe. But yes, so that's the look for Home Team. That's the general overview. No more Flow for the Home Team now. So immediate thoughts on this.
So I started talking about it on Twitter, and that's what got like Matt Shepherdson's attention. So we'll have him at some point. We're still figuring that out.
It also got Josh Schaub's attention too.
Yeah. Okay. It's not about you, American Association.
They stream their games for free.
Go get. Yeah, but if you want to go back and watch anything that isn't live, it's 15. So
that's tough shit.
Anyway, I guess it's complicated because yes, I support the leagues leaving Flow because Flow is terrible and it adds a barrier to entry, a price barrier to entry, which is far too high, while also not instilling any sort of quality into the broadcast. It's just a platform. and my understanding is home, whatever it's called.
Home team.
Home team. Thank you. I keep on say home front. That's not the same thing. Home team.
Video game from like 2007.
You think it might also be a show at some point too, but yeah, the thing that gets me is I like teams leaving flow. I understand that homestand or home, whatever the hell.
Home team. I said it 10 times.
Home team is going to at least have some sort of, either they are, the league is providing some sort of standard of quality. We'll get clarification on that. So it kind of elevates the floor of the broadcast, which is great, because if you right now, like, if what always bothered the hell out of me is if you pay for flow and then you are a fan of so you're really only interested in watching your team and you're a fan of, let me think on one, like, I don't know. I don't want to name one that's changed recently. Like Gastonia is the first thing in my head, but Gastonia has improved. But like a couple of years ago, Gastonia, we'll say that. So that way there's no current team being called out here. You were paying for like one stationary cam behind home plate with no broadcast for $30 a month. And that's crazy.
Kind of wild. Yeah.
And from what I understand, this will at least raise the floor of every broadcast, which is good. And I like that. I like the whole concept of leaving flow, because I think it's a ripoff and they are monopolizing this sort of secondary sports market. But the issue is with the other leagues remaining within flow, that being Pioneer League and Atlantic League. If you're an indie ball fan, and I recognize there are very few just general indie ball fans, and they are mostly listening to this, so hi. Now you're on the hook for an additional $15 a month, which is what I understand the price will be, to watch the same number of games. And as more egregious, on the whole, this is less of a commentary on home team.
Good job. Gold star.
Yeah. This is less commentary on that than it is the whole situation where it's, you can get MLB TV for what, $30 a month, was it?
I believe so, yes.
30 a month, I think. And with that, you get the 30 MLB teams. You get the, depending on blackouts, you get the top 3 leagues. So you get AA, AAA, High A. So it's 90 minor league teams. And then they have like a sporadic mix of the games in the other 2 leagues. So you can get up to like 120, 150, even depending on what's going on, games or teams rather, for 30 a month, rather than 52 indie ball teams with some mid broadcasts for what we're looking at now is 60 a month, 45 a month if you want to just get the free American Association AA baseball TV. That's what's frustrating. And that's what it's like. If you're starting to get into indie ball and you're like, oh, how can I watch all this? It's very interesting. Maybe I'm no longer enamored with the Major League Baseball thing or affiliated ball. There's lots of reasons for that. There are lots of people being turned off to this right now, between the city hopping going on in MLB, between the teams getting cut from minor league baseball, between the Diamond Baseball Holdings expansions. Like, there are people who are like, I love baseball, but I can't vibe with this. Oh, there's something else. Cool. How can I get really involved with it? Oh, $45 to $60 a month. Economy is tough. I don't know. And it all comes back to, and you know where it comes back to with me, you know it, is the YouTube broadcast idea, the free broadcast, which is, I know you want the subscription money or the money that you're getting. I don't know if you're getting subscription money or if you're getting money from home team or flow, as the case may be, whatever. However, maybe it just isn't all about that. Maybe it's about the long-term health of the organization, and maybe it's an investment and it's not a profit right now thing for once. Right. And I've been on this rant before, so I'll stop short on it a little bit. And we can also, and I also don't want to say too much without letting Matt come on and talk about this. Cause Matt, candidly, Matt and I did speak about this before it went public, and I do agree with a lot of the positions they're taking and a lot of the things that are going to be going on with it. I think this is a net positive, and unfortunately, I know my tweet didn't really express that. I think it's a net positive, but I think there is a negative side of it, and I wish there wasn't. But my point being, in the end, I always feel free broadcast is better for the approachability thing. I know it costs money, but you can also sell sponsorship. They're getting several hundred viewers on most games that are on free YouTube broadcasts. Like I was watching those YouTube streams. Like there were regulars, there were new people, there was sometimes only a couple hundred viewers, sometimes 1,000 viewers. But when you remember, there's only like maybe 2,000 people in the ballpark. That's kind of crazy. And it frustrates me that we're like, yeah, but that's useless to us because we can sign this other deal with the company. And I'm not specifically attacking the Frontier League right now. I'm looking at everybody. It starts to bother me a little bit. That's all.
There were so many points in that rant I wanted to cut in just to make a joke, but I didn't. So I'm going to just go ahead. And I want to give myself a little bit of a round of applause. So I'm going to do that right here. There we go. Boom, 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 boom. Clap emoji going up. Love that for me. But
proud of you.
Thank you. I need that. But yeah, I do agree. I think the hard part for me to swallow is knowing that most of these used to be free. How all of the Frontier League streams used to be free. You could just kind of go on, find one, just watch it, and you could switch between home or away audio. And same thing with the Can-Am. I don't recall the American Association, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were on there. You had the YouTube streams as well. And so to go from having them all essentially free to now one league free, but only if you're watching live, and everybody else is going to charge you around that $12 to $15 a month price point. It sucks. And like, yeah, you know, the $30 a month for Flow, you can argue you're getting other stuff there too. The 15 months for Home Team, I'm not sure if that's just strictly a Frontier League plan, because I know they have a bunch of different plans. The way they do their whole subscription service is a little bit odd to me, where
some things are paid, some aren't. The fact that the Frontier League was like basically subscription information will be out later makes me think this is not going to be a free thing.
Yeah, no, but that also, when they say like there's daily, monthly, and full season plans, that tells me it's not going to be a free thing here. It's just when you go on to actually add a subscription in, there's like 20 different options. So I'm not sure if it's like you got to buy one for each league, and like some of them are like $5 a month, and others are like $2 a month, and then some are like $20 a month. I don't know what that's going to shake out to be. You know, if it was one thing where like, okay, it's 15, I have access to all of this, then it's one thing, right? Like Flow, like I said, 30 is still egregious for what you're getting. It just doesn't make sense to do that. But at least you're getting stuff of value, right? Like you're getting some mid-major colleges. You're getting like the best of the rest minor leagues. I think the AHL's on there now too. So you do have, you know, kind of the best of that second class, the best of the non-major pro sports, right? With Home Team, it just doesn't really seem like that's there. It seems like you have a bunch of like summer college events, random hockey leagues, some inline hockey leagues, stuff that really is like a step above, you know, a men's league that streams their games. Now, granted, that does seem to be more the free streams than the paid streams, but, you know, if the price point doesn't fundamentally change from this and the quality doesn't fundamentally change from this, you're really left wondering, why didn't you just stay with Flow and make it more convenient? Which then makes me believe that it's like, oh, well, it's just to have our own service, and that way we can reap a little bit more money out of this. And like, I don't inherently hate the get the money up front approach of sign the contract with Home Team, Flow, whatever, you know, get the money up front. That's going to do more for you as a whole, as a league, than, you know, selling the individual sponsorships on the broadcast. Because I assume most of them would just be a simulcast with a couple webcams and one kind of switcher where you put an intern on just to, switch it as needed. Switch which camera goes onto the live feed, that is, of course. But I don't inherently hate it because, like some organizations like Quebec obviously would probably be able to pull in a lot more money. Washington probably be able to pull in a lot more money with their sponsorships than a team like, say, New Jersey would, or a team like, say, trying to think of another good one that may be struggling, but maybe like Gateway would struggle a little bit in getting their share of it. Brockton probably is another one that would struggle a little bit in selling the sponsorship money. So I don't necessarily hate it if for the whole it's better. It's just, if I'm going to be paying the $15 a month, right, there's an expectation of quality there, and there's an expectation that I'm not going to feel cheated when I watch it. I'm not going to feel inconvenienced by it.
I don't know. I come down on both sides of the fence with this, which is obvious because either way, it's not what not what I would do from a marketing and branding perspective or from a fan perspective. If, I guess my thing too is like, I have doubts that, say, tomorrow the Atlantic League goes, we're also going to home team, that your same $15, I don't know if that will get you.
Yeah, see, that's the thing with home team, though, is I think you probably would have to pay for an Atlantic League one and a French League one.
Right.
So you're still paying $30 a month, but now you're paying
who knows?
Less.
And part of me is like, well, it would be easy to probably do a negotiation on that where you get an indie ball one, but also that would mean the leagues work together, which
they will not do. So
different issue entirely. Because somebody did respond. They were like, yeah, it would be great if like the indie leagues would work. They think they might work together. And I was like, yeah, they don't understand the concept of rising tides, lifting all ships.
Well, yeah, of course not, because they view each other as competition. When it's like you have such a small group of people and you're so hyper localized, you're not competing against each other.
Yeah. And now this is where we run into, again, my other issue with the paid broadcast model, which is it does feel like if you look at, because again, the glimpse around the curtain I've gotten for the most part is that most teams, when they went to Flow, lost about 80% of their viewership, which means if we're looking at the people who are spending that money then to have the ability to watch these games, it is a small group, which means the majority of them are going to be your full season ticket holders, your host families, your actual families, and like friends, significant others, all that. And it's sort of like, what are we doing taking our most loyal customers, or even just the customers that are forced to be with us, but like count it, and pumping them for extra money? It just feels wrong. And it feels like you are taking what is the easy money and testing the patience of those people. And I'm like, maybe don't do that.
See, I think I said it back when the first of these streaming services popped up, but it feels like you're exploiting, the handful of people that are going to pay for it. And because you're taking advantage of pretty much families and host families and people like that. My bigger thing here is too, like, if we're going to say 80% is roughly where it was at for the drop there, that's going to Flow, which is at least fairly known.
Mm-hmm.
It's still not good. There's still a lot of problems with it. Like, let's be clear, there's still no love loss here. But, like, you could reasonably say, like, oh, well, I still got Flow for, watching the school I went to in college play. I still have Flow because I'm a big ECHL fan, so I got it for that, or some niche racing thing. So I have it for that. There's enough people there where there was a little bit of crossover. How many people have heard of Home Team?
Yeah, it's a tough one. From a branding perspective, it's tough.
Yeah, like that's the big
Again,
thing.
I think some of the things that I do think the reality of it is probably be a better product, frankly. But yeah.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like, I don't want to go too hard on it because I don't know the exact terms of the deal. I don't know what else is going to be included in this. Is it just going to be straight up the games and then you're going to have full on demand access? Is there going to be some sort of, little wrap up show? Is there going to be some sort of additional content?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what else is there going to be here? Is it going to be 15 like you're saying? Is it going to be a little bit lower? Like, what's the deal here? Because, like, I would probably go, like, I hate having to pay for it, period. But, like, if monthly we were talking like $8.99, I probably would go there. 15 feels like a lot. If like the full season was like 50, I probably would even go for that. If you want to say monthly was 15, the full season's like 50, I'd probably be like, I spent 50 on dumber things, so I'll go for that. But there's just ways that I feel like it could have been done better. Like the whole streaming thing, in principle, I agree with you, could be done better.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also a lot of conversation about what do the leagues get for this, which maybe we can now get some clarification on. Now there's some people not actively in a contract with Flow. I would love to learn more. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I mean, we'll watch it and see how it develops here. I don't want to get bogged down too much on home team here. There's still other stuff to get to this week. But it is something to watch out for, and I look forward to getting Shep on. We just got to find a date to actually toss him in here because we do have interviews scheduled for the next 2 weeks, and then it's straight previews. So we got to figure out how we're going to do that. But we'll figure it out, and well, you guys will find out. So shifting elsewhere in the Frontier, Skylands, they have turf now. The Miners are installing turf, should be ready by opening day. And as I said on Twitter, I don't love turf, but this is one of those situations where I've seen Skylands after a light rain or like a semi-moderate rain that lasted like an hour or two. This turf is necessary.
You would know more than I do. You've been there more often than me, so I will sort of give you the floor on this because you have some more in-depth knowledge on this particular topic.
The one I remember the most is I went up there in, I believe it was 2019 for either 2018 or 2019 for their championship series. Because they went back-to-back years, so I just don't remember if it was 18 or 19. And it rained a little bit, like not that bad. I would say maybe like 90-minute rain, pretty stock standard. Kind of hard, but like nothing notable. You're not like, oh, we got to get inside. It's more like, damn it, it's raining. And we walked out like into like the concourse area. People will know what I mean, like seating bowl. And we looked out, and it was very clear that game was not getting played. Like very clearly. You had a puddle in an on-deck circle and like the makings of a puddle at various points throughout the infield. And like you're thinking they had to have gotten the turf down though, like the tarp down. And it was just so clear that it was not going to work. So I'm perfectly fine with this case here where that field is just not good. It's also older. And we've been critical of Al Dorso and the way he runs things and the fact that that attendance number is suspect. Both of his team's numbers are suspect. But regardless, to put in a fairly large investment, a capital investment like turf, it does bode well for, the future of at very least the venue and hopefully by extension the team. And that's kind of what I like about this, is that if anything, it signals that Sussex County is going to get saved when everything goes to hell in Patterson. So, yeah, that's my immediate thoughts on the turf.
Quick math is telling me 2, 3, 4, 5 rainouts in their 48 home games last year. It feels like a high number. don't know, if all those could have been unavoidable, but just it's the note based on what we have, which is last year's schedule with postponements.
Yeah, normally I would say like, oh, 5 is, you could see it, even though it is about a tenth of the games. But when you factor in 2, most of North Jersey was in a drought for like 6 weeks. It gets really suspect, those 5 rainouts in 48 home days.
Boulders also had 5.
Boulders are another field that, quite frankly,
yeah, I was going to say that's why I had a tough time being like, there's so many. And look, I don't want to put anybody on blast. I have no idea what the situation is. There were times watching the Boulders games because I have not been in that field in person yet, so I don't really have a take on it.
Oh, really?
But I was like,
we're going to go up there.
I was like, why is the grass so long? And look, that could have been just the camera angle, but I was like, wait, what?
It's not.
Noticed.
It's not just the camera angle.
I don't know, man.
If you go up there in August, that grass is kind of burned in spots.
Yikes! All right. Okay, noted. Now to be fair, 2 of those rainouts at least are days where the Jackals also rained out and the New York Boulders also rained out. So they seemed, this quick comparison, it does seem like, but there's also, so the Jackals for reference had 3 rainouts. Now, of course, who knows? They could have just been luckier with weather, but that's all we got for comparison's sake.
Yeah, it's just one of those deals where I feel like for a net positive is going this route. And you can also start to use that facility a lot more too for other things. Yeah, so that's the general thought on the turf here. I do think it's going to be better too because they do have the Skyland Light Show, which is pretty popular. They have the Jack-o'-lantern event that's also pretty popular. They have the food truck and craft beer event too, which is fairly popular. That's right before opening day. Actually, it's about a week before. So you should be able to see the turf this year for that. Beginning of May, I think May 3rd. So San Jose and Oakland, they played their little one-off exhibition game this past week. There was 2,842 in attendance, which feels pretty good for an early April minor league exhibition game. Yeah. San Jose won 5-2, which honestly, they didn't embarrass themselves. Yes, Oakland, good job. Way to play for Oakland. Love that. And really, honestly, you almost did us a solid by losing because we got to see Brian Colmo get pied by a cake and the Giants mascot. So Ryan's just he's ran out of lotion and tissues watching that video. Let's put it like that.
You're such an idiot.
But yes, any thoughts on this exhibition game?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I'm formulating those into a video and sort of talking to some people on the other side of things to try to collect my theory fully.
You're trying to break on through to the other side is what I hear.
A little bit. So we'll see. I have some, but I guess my thoughts on just the whole game, just the game is, they represent themselves well. At least that was while technically they should be better than that team. I mean, trying to get everybody together and get a full roster and all that stuff in mid off season essentially is pretty difficult. So yeah, for indie ball, it's good that they did as well as they did. That's for sure. They competed.
Were you able
to? It was, from what I hear, it wasn't the most competitive game. I didn't get to see it, but it was not. It was sort of like some late runs kind of helped. But yeah,
that's what I kind of gathered. I heard there was a solo shot, so I kind of assumed like solo shot and then like a little something. Yeah. So would you say, from what you've heard, did they embarrass themselves?
No.
Okay, that's what we cared about. Okay, good. But were you able to find a roster for that?
No, I didn't look super hard though.
Okay, fair enough. I was just doing some cursory searches and I was not able to really generate anything going on that.
I didn't see anything posted. I was kind of keeping an eye out for that, but I didn't see, which was surprising in my opinion, but I'm sure. Staffing is weird in this sort of situation, so I have no idea what they were going with.
Fair enough. That's the thing. Like walking in a month before you break for camp and about 2 weeks before you have a tryout camp. Makes it a really tough one to really put everything together for. And I still do deeply wonder about the economics and the logistics of this.
Well, sourcing that just says they can't confirm who is paying for this. I have my suspicions, and we'll go from there.
All right. Do we have anything further to add to this?
I don't really think so. I don't hate, by the way, the minor league Indie Bowl crossover. I like it quite a bit, but the situation based on the teams involved has me sort of giving it a side eye.
Okay. Last news story before we get into the kind of meat and bones of this episode. Baseball Champions League. We have a roster out for that. This is what the Kane County Cougars roster is going to look like, as we have come to expect with this thing. It's not actually the Kane County Cougars roster from last year. It is the American Association All-Stars that are willing to go and play in Mexico for about a week. And those fine gentlemen that will make up this team are the following. Here are your pitchers: Tyler Beardsley, Daniel Baez, Landon Barraza, Connor Curlis, Colton Davis, Jake Gazzo, Jordan Martinson, Chris Mazza, which I didn't think Chris Mazza would be on this team, just because I didn't realize he was kicking around the association, but that's probably on me not looking at an American Association roster for the past 5 months, 6 months. So,
true.
Weston Murr, Logan Nissen, Jake Stevenson, Vinny Campanelli. Your catchers, Nick D'Alessandro and Hayden Dunhurst. Infielders, Josh Allen, Brantley Bell, Gailey Cribbs Jr., Dason Crows, Todd Lott, Shed Long Jr., and their outfielders are Ross Adolph, Max Murphy, Dylan Thomas, and Armand Upshaw. Thoughts about the roster?
I'll confess, I meant to do this and I didn't have time. I meant to go and sort of do a deep dive into where everybody's from, essentially, like the sourcing. I didn't really get a chance to, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, it does have the energy of
shame.
Yeah, I know, I'm the worst. Well,
yes, you are.
It makes sense. It has to be a combined effort because, not mid-season. That's why that's what's holding this tournament back, is it being pre or post season and having it be extremely difficult to fill a full roster with your own players and keep them around.
Yeah.
The reasons for that, of course, are something I think we've been over in the past. It makes sense logistically. It's a pain. But yeah, it's sort of one of those things where I wish it was it was not that way. But at least the team looks like they should be good, which is, I'll take that as a win. On the topic of indie ball teams not embarrassing themselves.
Take the victories you can get. Yeah. So that's the thing. This is a good group of guys. D'Alessandro's a good catcher. I like the infield a lot. Crows, Cribbs, Bell, Allen, all are great. I mean, Shed Long's probably one of the better hitters on this team too. Max Murphy just continuing to do whatever. Great. I will put money on him hitting somewhere in the 280s in this tournament. I assume he's also going to be the DH. So the rest of the outfield looks fine. Pitching staff looks pretty good. All in all, looking forward to it. Game 1 is this week. It is April the 8th. Game 2 on April the 10th. And then we'll see where they go from there. You have your elimination round on the 11th, semifinal on the 12th, and then the final on the 13th. So all in total to be wrapped up in a nice, neat bow in a little over a week from today. So got that to look forward to.
Yeah. I think that's... I've been over this. I have reservations about just on the fact I don't love the execution, but I love the concept. So I'm unfortunately, my enthusiasm for it isn't usually there, but that should not be taken as I don't endorse this idea and I will not be watching, which I will be.
It's on a baseball TV, right?
Yeah, I'll be watching for free on AA Baseball TV because they have live games for free.
See, Josh, he knows. He knows. He's been re-educated.
No, I've known since the beginning. I mentioned it on Twitter. I was like, yeah, it's just that if you want, the ability to go back and see games, which is what you get with the paid subscription and the other paid subscriptions, then it's 15.
All right, let's get into the bulk of this team review. So we mentioned over the past few weeks about wanting to do an episode where we just talk about the markets that lost affiliated baseball and wound up going to the independent leagues. Immediately, you think Charleston, you think Lexington, you think Tri-City, you think Kane County, because those were the big four that just kind of seamlessly went over. But there's others as well. I mean, obviously, the whole Pioneer League jumped over. Staten Island wasn't a 1-for-1, but they went there. Hagerstown, Mississippi, and we might as well mention Down East and Frederick, too. I don't think there's any others since the big cuts. I may be missing one in there, but I don't think I am. So we figured today what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of time, talk about each of these markets, how they've adapted, and kind of where things are going to go for them in the future. Are they in their permanent spot, or is this a team that you could see going back to affiliated ball, or maybe they just don't last as a pro team or last period? So on that note, of all the, I guess, about 9 organizations that I mentioned here, where do you want to start here? Yes. So I guess we'll start with Kane County and we'll work our way through the list here. How have you thought Kane County's adjusted to life in the association so far?
I think fairly well. I mean, hard to argue on the field they haven't adjusted well, right?
Yeah, championship course.
Yeah, so that's been good. I'm not hearing anything about sort of garbage fires burning within that organization, so it seems like, and usually we would.
I know. So, those garbage fires are reserved for other Chicago area teams.
Right, and yes, well, specifically. So, yeah, I don't really know. Yeah, I've never felt there was a big issue. So I feel like they're doing well. I don't know. Is that the read you're getting?
Yeah, that's generally how I'm feeling about it, too.
Okay.
I don't think they are struggling, certainly. I think they are doing very well there. I'm just in the process of playing baseball mapper, so that way I can have more of a context here. I think they picked a good league to join, too. There's enough where they're kind of centrally located. They can easily get to 2 teams in Milwaukee. They're not that far from Gary. They have, obviously, the Dogs nearby. The quality of play seems to be roughly where they'd want it to be, maybe a little bit of an improvement even. So that's definitely a plus, too. Also, you're not, getting crazy on total competition in there. There's teams nearby, but not overly close. Like, yes, you're still, I guess, fighting for the fan dollars with Schaumburg or with Joliet or Windy City, but you're not in direct competition with people that are fans of the Frontier League and decide to go with this team. So I think that is a nice plus there, too. I think overall they've been fairly stable. We'll see how new ownership does there, but generally speaking, I do think they have worked out fairly well. And I do like how they have a very unique little marker on Baseball Mapper.
Yeah, right. I've noticed that before. I like that. I wish I wish every team had that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But who am I to criticize Baseball Mapper? Because Baseball Mapper is amazing. Yeah, I'm just trying to look here. Sorry, I'm doing a quick lookup.
Just a quick.
I know. It just I get more emails than I think. All right, let's see. Yeah. Okay. I mean, apparently best attendance in the American Association. All things with a grain of salt. But apparently, in fact, apparently the best indie ball attendance.
Really?
Yep, on a per game basis. 5,600 is apparently what they got going on here.
I'm not sure how much I buy that.
Not sure about that. Maybe cut it in half and I'll believe you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always curious about that. I found my house on Baseball Mapper too.
There you go. I mean, their capacity is huge.
Yes.
So that's part of it. It's like 10 1,000 plus seats. So that is fascinating. So maybe. I worry about any team that does feel the need to kind of blatantly lie about their tents, which I do think they are. But now, the counter argument is they never strike. To be fair, they never strike me as an organization that has full stadiums. But again, maybe it's because it's so big. Like the problem in Lexington was we could get 2,000 people a game, and it would
2,000 feels empty and 10,000
desolate because it was a massive ballpark, and it still is for the most part. So that's a tough one for sure.
So I guess the next stage in this, because we both agree they seem to be fairly well ran and seem to be doing well, regardless of how accurate the attendance is.
Yeah.
The next logical progression for them, is it staying where they are doing well? Is it trying to go back to affiliated now? Or is it, maybe you drop down to summer college? I feel like that one's immediately off because there's no point in doing that.
Agreed. Right.
So it's really affiliated or not. I feel like not is honestly the better answer for them at this time here, with new ownership that's already in the American Association, that is familiar with it, seemingly doing well. I think the league at this point, I'm not gonna say they've been over backwards to keep them, but like, I think they do what they had to do to make sure they keep them. So I feel like they're in a good spot.
I agree. I definitely think they do. I definitely think they are. I don't think going anywhere is necessarily in the cards for them. I think it just doesn't make a ton of sense. I don't see any clubs coming back toward Kane County unless there was an MLB expansion, in which case who is like, where we need a team like Kane County. I mean, maybe Nashville, but I think there's other areas. So yeah. I don't really see the, I just don't really see a future in that, but I think they have a bright future as a very successful indie ball organization.
I definitely agree there. And on the note of, expand to where, Lexington kind of comes up as, a possible, fit for a Nashville expansion. So I guess let's talk a little Lexington at the moment here. They were one of the other kind of crown jewel options. I think we all said this could be a really good, grab for somebody. And has that been the case so far?
I mean, the Andy Shea era really, I think the Andy Shea era is what cost Lexington affiliated status for screw it. I've been in the organization. That's what happened. So yeah, that cost them. And then, just an unrealistic way of running things and where to put money and keep up with that ballpark. So basically any new owner that came, so the new owner came in after him and immediately had sky high costs for just getting the ballpark safe and usable. And then that owner left. New owners in, it seems to be going better. They seem to have a good concept for what to do. They're at least getting maybe a smarter design of that ballpark, but I think the overhead is such that there's no reasonable way that will ever improve to become affiliated, with the exception of a minor league team. An affiliated team is needed by an expansion organization, and maybe they're either the major league organization or more likely a Diamond Baseball Holdings type comes in and invests and does it that way. I think that's about it. I think it's going in the right direction. I think the rumors we hear about them going to the Frontier League are going to be true. It's just getting them out of their 5-year deal with the Atlantic League and then making the move to the Frontier. It just makes too much sense. I think that will probably be the likely move, and that will be a good move for them because it reduces the player overhead that is expected in the Atlantic League as well. So there's that. Yeah, I think that's kind of where they sit. Do you have differing opinions there?
No, I do think that, and that's what I was going to kind of get to. Like, it was clear they could contend in the Atlantic League. They wanted to win a championship and look very strong for the first few years, but it didn't really make much sense to go from low A, high A ball to the Atlantic League. Like, that wasn't a market that was going to demand some sort of higher quality of baseball. They were just happy to have a team. And so the Frontier League kind of felt better right? In the Atlantic League, you're upping your travel costs a lot. There's still very much an East Coast league. Yeah, you brought in Charleston. We'll talk about them in a minute. But outside of that, like you're kind of more out there with what? Sugarland until they jumped and a couple teams in North Carolina. There was no real reason to add Lexington on. It just seemed like an odd placement there. Even an American Association was kind of out there, but you could kind of go like, oh, well, you know, I mean, Gary's not that far. But Frontier kind of made more sense from the get-go. It was right in the middle of the footprint. Plus, with the merger, you know, it felt like, oh, yeah, this could be like a really nice kind of stop-off point. I think at that point they absorbed, what was it, the 5 teams from the Can-Am, 5 or 6 teams. I forget if Ottawa was included in that or not.
I think it was. I have 6 in my head.
Yeah, I
but
think.
Yeah, I guess technically it was Ottawa.
But Ottawa was going to be like a new thing. It was.
Yeah.
It was going to ultimately be 6 plus what they already had. So you're going to go to your
right.
your total setup there, and like you could have then divvied up everything a certain way to make it work, right? Like I think it was 14 in the very beginning. So you could have done like the 7 and 7. You could have done like the odd, like 4, 4, 4, and then the extra 2 to slot them in wherever. You could have made it work, but it's very clear they're going to expand and get up to 16. And then it could have easily just been 4 divisions of 4, and everything would have been nice. But whatever, that's a separate tangent. And like it felt like they were a very good spot to be in as an intermediary. Cost wise was going to be good. Yeah, the ballpark was always going to be big, but you still would have been able to invest to win, keep costs low, and been in a good spot. So the Atlantic League never felt great from the get-go. I mean, good for the league to get them, but it just didn't feel like the right fit there. So hopefully they do wind up going to the Frontier League. Hopefully they do wind up finding more success, because 3 ownership groups in about 5 years is not any sort of stability and not really a path to success. So that's
yeah. I mean, it's not really a to be fair type of situation. I guess I would just say I don't even know how to rate. I want to say like at least that's not really it, but I guess for clarification purposes, the ballpark size has been an ongoing issue since the affiliated days, because they built it like it was a AAA ballpark, and then it was a short A or a low A ballpark. So that's brutal. Yeah. But yeah, that's the detail there. At least that part's not a new challenge, I guess. So
yeah, I mean, I will say the one positive though about it is that at least now they're starting to fix the ballpark and get it more into that, you know, proper attendance size.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean they had 26 suites, brother. Not necessary. And
yeah, like
they've started to get rid of those and like turn them into like large group areas. Smart. So yeah, that's the move.
Definitely. So on that, why don't we shift to kind of their travel partner in a sense, which is Charleston. They came in, wound up changing their name from West Virginia Power to
that was at least a good call.
Yeah, to Charleston Dirty Birds. Still think the Charlie should have been the winner, but you know, whatever. Overall, success-wise, pretty middling team. I think they made one playoff appearance, if I'm not mistaken, and didn't go well. And since then, been kind of like, you know,
made the championship last year.
I totally forget about that. Like that's how much I don't think about this team. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, really, I'm with you.
The Toastman is the only thing I really recall from Charleston.
I'll say that there was definitely, when I put out the Manager Madness bracket and PJ was a 3 seed, there were multiple people who were like, how the hell is PJ a 3 seed? And then I was like, well, I mean, just made the championship in the Atlantic League. He's made 2 championships in 3 Atlantic League seasons. And they were like, God, that's right. I'm like, yeah, man, it's just, you don't really think about Charleston much.
Yeah, it's just like, that's the one thing with them, is they're such an awkward spot. Like, again, like, really good Frontier League location. Feels like you're kind of right in the middle of everything. For like Atlantic League wise, you're kind of out on your own. You know, Billy Horn's great, man, but his teams didn't perform. Mark Minikasi's great, man. His teams didn't really perform. So, like, you know, I just don't think about them. They don't do enough. They don't stand out enough. The brand's not memorable enough. Like, I assume it does well locally. That's my assumption. But I just, like, you take away last year and, like, what really is there? I was there to show for it in 4 years.
Yeah, and I do consistently think they're probably heading the wrong direction. I mean, the thing I would say for them is they had a very loyal fan base. I'm not sure that they're doing a great job nurturing that and growing it. I think the vibe I've gotten every year. I get more and more people DMing me with complaints, and I'm more unhappy season ticket holders. That does not bode well. Again, another one I think will probably try to make a move to the Frontier League. I don't know if they'll pull that off. I don't know how long. If that doesn't go super well, I'm not sure how long Andy Shea would keep that team. I'm more certain in them going Frontier League than Lexington, for the record.
Really?
Yeah. Mainly because Andy Shea still owns Charleston, and he has said for years he wants to get out of the Atlantic League. My bigger issue, though, is the fact that I think if that doesn't turn out to be a profitable enterprise, I could see him just being like, I'm out. And then I don't know that somebody comes in Charleston and wants to put a team in that ballpark. I don't know what that looks like other than potentially summer ball. If that happens, we're talking a couple years down the line, a few years down the line. But
is it bad for me to say I almost think it would do better in the draft league?
No, I kind of feel that.
Because you'd be back with, was it the Black Bears?
Yeah, can get us across state rivalry.
Yeah, you get that cross promotion there. The expense is lower. And it just feels like to me, they have no... I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it so I don't say the wrong thing. Because I don't... Like, there's a very specific way I want to put it. Like, legacy is not really the right term, but no real, like, sticking power to any one league where I feel like, yeah, you do well there. Like, I'd hate to see them jump to the Frontier League and have the same problem, right? Where there's no real sticking power. Like, yeah, if you go there, maybe you get something going with Washington. That feels like the most natural thing. And you could do, once they get to their 20 number, of either a 4 or 5 team division that includes like a Lexington, a Washington, them, and Lake Erie. And maybe you have a little something going there.
Right.
You could also probably throw Florence in there as well. And, that could be a fun little division. But I don't know, man. Like, maybe it's just like years of being a very mid team and then like, oh yeah, they did make a championship last year. That gets me in that frame, but I just don't know. Like, they are a team I should really like, but I just can't find anything to grab onto with them.
Agreed. And I think the current ownership does not inspire confidence, which does not help.
Yeah, that's fair too.
Yeah.
Shifting now to stay actually into the Frontier League, Tri-City. They started off, honestly, on the right foot. And I think as an organization, I love them the way they're ran. They went out, they got Pete off the bat. Great. While they didn't quite get it, Frontier League playoff is by far the hardest one to make. So no harm, no foul. And admittedly, Bobby Jones in Sussex County kind of put the screws to him in, 21? That jammed him out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
With, we're just resting guys and making it so they can catch their flights. Where it's like, Bobby, come on. You don't like the guy. And you saw a chance to screw him, and you did it. Like, I don't hate it. I love it. It added to the
frankly,
beat.
I respect it. I like that is a plot line throughout any ball. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's like the one secret base series on Beef. Like, we need that for Pete and Bobby. Like, that was great for like a 2-year, 3-year stretch. So I'm totally down with that. I have no problem with that. But they start off really strong, and even they got to the postseason last year. It was very short-lived, mind you. But Greg Taggart, I see how you could go like experienced guy. He had success in the past, even though the recent past has been rough. But like they genuinely do try. They run the ballpark well. They get notable players. I mean, they pulled in Kumar Rocker too, which is a nice get for them for the month or two that he was there. And overall, I like them. I feel like they fit in the Frontier League very well too. They fit the footprint. I would have thought they would have went Atlantic League off the hop, but
yeah, this is a little surprising. But though, from an expense perspective, probably makes good sense.
Yeah, I remember the one. What was it? Like Times Union piece where they went through and they were like, "This is the economic situation. It made more sense to be in the Frontier than the Atlantic."
Right.
Which is a sense of maturity among ownership and management. So I appreciate that as well.
Again, I think there's some teams that we've already talked about that probably could have benefited from that sort of decision making.
Exactly. So like, I can't speak to, individual experiences within the organization, but at least from the outside looking in and the way they conduct their business, I think pretty highly of them. And I think on field wise, they've never really been bad. They haven't been playoff good enough.
It's been mostly a good product in the field.
Yeah. I mean, like they've had stretches where like, a month or two really wasn't good. And then they had to rebuild the team in June and then kind of come up with it on the fly, and that bit them in the ass in the end. Yeah. But even still, like, they were a productive team. They weren't like, some of the teams we normally see at the bottom. So
yeah, true.
And like, I feel like they're in a really good spot. Like, obviously, I think everyone on this list would probably prefer to be affiliated. It would be easier for them, be cheaper for them. But I think they're in the spot they need to be in. I think they're, a positive addition to the league. I think the league's been a positive for them. And overall, I really do think the Valley Cats have done well.
Yeah, agreed. I have very few notes for them. I mean, even the things that we've been concerned about, they've kind of proven us wrong. So yeah, I think I'm somebody who's very pro indie ball, in like whatever's good for indie ball is what I'm rooting for. I am glad that Tri-City is here.
Absolutely. Definitely agree there. Those are the core four of them. So now we get some other more miscellaneous ones. All right. So we're going to look at some of the other teams now here. Pioneer League's its own thing. So that's going to get saved towards the end. So that way, should we not have the time, it can get its own separate bid. Looking Staten Island, I think, is where I want to go with this, keeping the tri-state region here. This is an org, man, that I remember the hype around it. You have a billionaire owner, which I think everyone bought into that a little too much, that like, oh, it's suddenly going to be able to just spend whatever you want type of thing. I feel like out of the gate, I think everyone bought into that a little bit too much. And I think they were going in trying to make a splash where it really wasn't necessary, right? And you had the beef between Fonzie and Kraus out the gate. Team never really got off the ground. Then they went to Homer Bush the following year. That didn't really work. It was an improvement, and I do think that if they would have kept him around years 2 and 3, you would have seen improvement. I think it would have been better. But instead, they opted to go Mark, and I think Mark's definitely done a lot of good over there. I think he's helping them out. We got to improve the second half performances, of course, but, and comes with the territory. And, I think they're doing better, but for a New York area team in the Atlantic League, you're going to be spending a lot of money on everything. It's just the way it is. It doesn't help either that Long Island's been a little antagonistic towards them. So it's hard for me to say what's the future for Staten Island. So far, it just feels like they haven't gotten off the ground, but we're like 3 years into not getting off the ground. So like,
yeah, there's been a lot of like start and stop, especially like, I know it's not the manager thing isn't the be all end all, but we've recently discussed this in fact, like what's going on the field definitely affects your ability to do things off the field. Yeah. And it's just, I don't, and it also kind of represents what seems to go on behind the scenes, and both has been very messy for the most part here, though we'll see what the consistency does for, a second year with Mark Minikasi, hopefully is helpful to everybody involved.
Definitely. And I do think too, is once you start having some of the dysfunction leaking out and the non-results, on the field and everything else that compiles itself, even things that every team does look worse on you, right? Like you bring in, a local major leaguer, right? And it's like, oh, look what they're doing to try and draw stuff in. And it's like, well, everybody does that. But it just changes your perception on each activity. And it's a hard thing to change. So I'm curious to see how they're able to work that going forward.
Yeah. The thing that concerns me is I travel in baseball, message boards and threads and things like that. And I have seen a lot of chatter in the area of like people who talk about going to, Staten Island Ferry Hawks who used to go to the Staten Island Yankees or who go to other teams around there, or people who are like, hey, like used to see Staten Island Yankees. Who's been to the Staten Island Ferry Hawks team? How is it? And like, usually they're like, not really worth the trip. That's what's concerning.
The worst.
Is you're getting people in the door and they're like, I don't need to come back again. And look, that might have been, because of like an early sort of stutter step out the gate, but it is worrisome when it's, maybe a wider, either way, even if that is not recent stuff, I guess I mean to say, it's the fact that you don't seem to be getting people back still is concerning because our 10 summers have been really tough.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still second from the bottom in attendance. I feel like they're close to honest. I know Gastonia is pretty honest about their attendance and their attendance struggles, but they're on a rebuild. That's a different situation. So yeah, Staten Island does not draw.
Honestly, indifference, I think, is the worst thing you could be. At least if people genuinely don't like everything, you can just scrap everything and have free reign to start everything over. If people are indifferent, it's like you don't know where to even go with it.
There's so many options around there,
That's part of the problem too, is trying to do a small town draw in a big city is a difficult sell. And it's especially difficult. I understand, like comparing Staten Island to Queens isn't a 1-for-1 by any means. It's not the easiest thing to get done. But like, if you're going to be fighting to get over to Staten Island for a game, why not fight a little bit harder, get over to Queens and buy like Met tickets out in the outfield for like $20 a piece?
Yeah. And I'm not sure. I'm not as confident saying all that. Maybe it's because I don't know the area as well, but there's just something there that seems to still be missing. And honestly, I know, I would say 2, 3, maybe 4 is what I'll go with as a number. People who are like really invested in the success of that organization, who didn't necessarily work for the organization or did in some capacity, or there's a good variety across the people I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And all 3 of them not only aren't involved anymore, but are like not interested and are like, what happens to them happens to them. And I don't really know the full picture on what went down there, but it's like, how many people are left to care? And I think, again, another one who could benefit from a Frontier League move just to make a cut in the overhead.
I can see that. Plus, you at least get some local competition.
Yeah.
They tried hard with Long Island, but it's not taking root because Long Island's not buying in.
Right.
So,
or at least buying in ways that aren't necessarily as helpful. Seemingly. Yeah.
So, at least if you're able to go and you're playing New Jersey, you're playing Sussex County, you're playing New York, like, okay, you're getting local opponents. You can organize more, and there should be more of a buy-in. I'd agree with that. Yeah, I feel like there wasn't experienced people and there wasn't local people, but you had people that were local and you had some experience there, but you didn't have a good mix of it, which I don't know how to exactly phrase that other than that. It's not exactly what I mean to say, but it starts to get towards the issue. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's about. I get it. I feel like neither of us can really nail down what we're trying to say.
Yeah, it's almost like
it could be the most complicated of the.
It's like they took people that have either worked in minor league baseball in the general area, but not in Staten Island itself. And we're just like, oh, well, they were good in Brooklyn, so we're going to take something from Brooklyn and try to toss it in here. Or, they did something good over with this other team over here, and we're going to bring them in. But they never really thought, like, maybe we should get somebody that is like an experienced Atlantic League guy.
Yeah.
And bring him in. Because, like, I remember, like, their baseball ops guy was, like, Eddie Medina. Which, no knock on Eddie Medina, but he's not an Atlantic League guy, A. And B, he was recently retired. He had no real operational side knowledge. You needed to go out and get a dude like that. Like, I feel like, honestly, getting Fonzie was, like, the definition of the organization, which is a big name, beloved by, like, Met fans to try and get them to buy into Staten Island because they're still concerned about the Yankee Association. But it kind of alienated Yankee fans a little bit because they cared about it because it was a Yankee affiliate. And you brought in a guy that had a big name that sold well in New York, but you didn't sell to the people you needed to sell it to. And moreover, had no real independent league experience. So you had a bunch of people that didn't really know how to operate in the landscape, just kind of relying on the people in the league to give you guidance. And that's never a good idea because they have other things they got to be doing other than helping you in particular. So it felt like the giant summary of the organization was that initial hire. And I don't know if they've gotten everything else together, but judging by the fact that when Homer Bush before going to Mark, I got my doubts. And that's not to say that the people there aren't capable of running or capable of figuring it out. It's just you haven't really made an impression in your marketplace yet. So how are you going to fix it?
Yeah, that's, I think, this good summary of the situation there. I think we were talking Staten Island this long would kind of make sense now.
Yeah. There's really only two other markets in particular I want to get to. There's Down East and there's Mississippi in there, but they haven't really gotten started yet, so I don't really know what more we can say that we haven't said as of recent about them. I guess we kind of combine these two into one conversation real quickly, which is Frederick and Hagerstown. We'll leave the Pioneer League as its own thing for later on. Maybe it's actually a good conversation to kind of go on next week, meaning that we're going to have Billy Horton hopping on the show with us. But Frederick and Hagerstown as a whole here, they feel like opposite trajectories, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because, like, with Frederick, you went with Frederick Baseball Club for a while. Okay, fine. Mid-season rebrand, we saw it with Charleston, so Frederick, fine, I guess. I still hate doing mid-season rebrands, but whatever. There seemed to be a lot of confusion as to what their actual place in the league was. And you do this whole rebrand and everything. Now you're on going into year 3 of a hiatus. And it seems like they're more destined to either just get an affiliated team back at this point or just stick with college ball. Being that you have two teams with two different names playing in the same ballpark. And the summer college team kept the Keys name that was well known, which kind of cut the legs out from underneath the pro team. And on the flip side, in Hagerstown, you have a brand new ballpark that's extremely nice, an organization that seems to know what they're doing. And honestly, like, looking at the way they're building their roster this year, I'm kind of loving it a little bit. Like, I don't think they're going to be playoff worthy, but I like the pieces.
Well, yeah.
I think they're going to be improved, certainly.
Okay, sure.
So, regardless of just on field, year 1 seemed to go well for Hagerstown. They seem to have a clear-cut identity. They seem to have a clear-cut mission and purpose. So it just feels like, they're kind of opposite directions on their own thing here. And it feels like one kind of, is the death knell for the other, too, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily fully on that. I mean, Frederick seems to be a weird situation because I'm not sure Frederick seems fully sold on indie ball. I mean, they seem to not be having that bad of a time doing whatever the draft league is. They seem to be making it work for them. So maybe there's just not really a hunger to make that move. Like they kind of sniffed around it and they're kind of like, whatever. Especially now that, there seems to be questions about, affiliated ball in the future. So yeah. I think that's part of it. And then, but yeah, I guess to refocus it toward Hagerstown, I do think Hagerstown's kind of the vibe, and they seem to have done this well and have a good idea of what they're doing and the direction they're going in, which is kind of refreshing, frankly, especially for an Atlantic League team.
Yeah, it's nice to have an organization, especially a new one that's like, yeah, we're handling our shit. We don't have issues here.
Exactly.
But yeah, I guess my thing with Frederick, just to put a capstone on them, is it feels like the whole situation was very muddled from the beginning. That they were under one impression and the league was under another, and then when it all went down, it felt like both sides were kind of like, wait, why did you think that? And then that kind of soured things from there. And then seeing, we're giving a team to Hagerstown, but isn't there a team in Frederick that's about to take a year-long hiatus? Isn't that gonna like mess with things? And then I
I mean, I always go back to, I think that both of them are equally guilty in that. I mean, Hagerstown deal was already on the table. Frederick can't act like they didn't know. And common sense says, probably Hagerstown isn't thrilled about Frederick popping in. So I don't know. I think both of them are responsible in that one, but yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I would say. Because I wouldn't just be like, I'm
not blaming anybody for it. I'm just saying that, I'm just saying that putting them both there was kind of like, well, I mean, like, let's be honest here. Like, both of them here in this market doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not blaming one party or the other. If anything, it's the Atlantic League for doing that. They should have picked one and ran with it.
Well, because they ran out teams, which is embarrassing.
Yeah, because the Atlantic League is like the old Ottoman Empire to the sick man of indie ball at this point. They got to figure it out. Sure. But yet, when they go caving down, it's going to cause all sorts of hell. So figure it out and fix it. But yeah, so you're on a tight deadline. So we will leave Pioneer League till next week.
Because I think there's multiple teams in the Pioneer League that deserve like kind of a deep dive, which I think we should take the time to do.
So we'll pocket the Pioneer League for next week. It feels like it'll fit the theme. We'll have a nice Pioneer League week interview with Billy, and then we'll go into a deep dive into the Pioneer League. I don't think we're gonna have too much news coming out, so it'll be good to do that. And as far as Mississippi and Down East go, I don't think there's all too much to say on them that we haven't already said. So we'll kind of leave it there. And so if you want to go do your plug.
He's a doo-doo.
But if you want to take your plugs, go ahead and do that.
Indie Ball Nation got Manager Madness still ongoing. Got some other videos. Hopefully, they'll be coming out. I don't want to step on the toes of Manager Madness because it's been going well. So I'll probably put out a video tonight for that and then be voting all weekend. And we'll try to get to the, I think, Elite 8 within the next 3 days of listening to this. So yeah, it should be fun. If you're listening to this on Saturday, go check because there's probably voting posted on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube probably.
Where were they by the handles? Because
obviously Indie Ball Nation, keeping it straightforward, baby.
Because, people that have been listening for like a year plus now, I'm sure they don't know that by now.
I've recently gotten called, Indie Ball Report, and I'm like, well, yeah, Indie Ball Nation. They're like, what? I was like, oh, all right.
I thought all your bums were the same.
You're all the same to me.
Indie Ball Pod on Twitter, Indie Ball Report everywhere else. Just put up a tryout list. So we took just about every tryout that's been publicly posted or that I've been personally told about through the sign-up link to it, as well as the cost, dates, and who is running it onto one article. And I try to summarize what the tryout will generally be into a small little couple sentence blurb underneath it. Hopefully that helps some guys. I know when I did that back in, I think, 2023, it was fairly popular. A lot of guys seem to like it. So hopefully it does well again. And that's one of the missing articles I still have to do. One for, I believe, this month, technically. That was supposed to be the one for March. And I'm behind like 2 or 3 videos for right now. So I'm going to try to get all that cooking fairly soon. So yeah, keep an eye out for all that. Like I said, check the socials. And next week we talk to Billy Horton from the Yuba Sutter High Wheelers.
Yes, sir. Nice.
It'll be
Man.
fun
Good,
there.
good way to adapt.
Exactly. Yeah, it's gonna be tough getting used to it, but that's where we're at now. And then we have an interview coming up the following week, and then we are into 4 straight weeks of previews. Also, we're going to be talking to Matt Shepardson at some point in the next couple weeks too, to talk some Frontier League as well. So busy April. That's good.
It'll be fun.
After a slow off season, busy April. So you guys know the drill around here. Until next time, don't forget to play ball.